Alright guys, so this is gonna be your last speech you can hear from me. Possibly. Alright. I know y'all got a lot of things going on in your head right now. You're probably tired, hungry, worried, all kinds of stuff, right? Everybody remembers their first time they walked into the ring and they had to spar. Remember the first time you had to actually throw hands first time. Forget about the first fight, but remember the first spar. You're probably nervous, there's a lot of things going in your head. And I've been talking about it lately in the past week is the inner voice in your head, right? About that voice going off telling you, hey, can you do this? You know, right now it's probably even going off wondering, man, my phone, where's my phone? I want to get on social media. I want to go to sleep. Right now the voice is going off in your head. It's always going to go off in your head from now for the rest of your life. You have to understand that voice in your head is you. And you have full control of that voice. Meaning, anything that voice says, if it's negative or positive, it's you feeding that to yourself. Okay? So you have to understand you have full control of the voice. So there's always going to be an inner battle, and there's always going to be a physical battle. The inner battle is the biggest battle you're going to have to face first before you even do the physical battle. So just like when you're stepping into that ring, before you even step into that ring, there's a lot of things going on in your head. And before you even start fighting, that battle first has to be won. Okay? So I'm going to tell you a story about somebody that I know really well, about his story and his inner battle and his physical battle. Okay? On September 14, 2018 at 5:30 p.m., he was working away from home, out of town. He was feeling a little sick. His jaw started hurting a lot, and he wasn't able to chew food or talk, and he wasn't too sure what was wrong with him. So he headed to the emergency room to get checked out. After the doctor looked him over, and they were trying to figure out what was wrong with him, they had to draw blood to see what they can figure out. After an hour waiting in the room, he figured the doctor was going to come back, give him a shot, and send him on his way. When the doctor walked in, the doctor's face was pale as a ghost. And he goes, man, I got some bad news for you. And he looked at him dead in the face and he said, yes. He goes, you end up having a rare disease in your blood, and it's fatal. It's so fatal, you're not going to make it. And he said, what? So he went over the symptoms. Was he experiencing back spasm? He said, yes. Was he experiencing stiff neck? He said, yes. Was he experiencing any fevers? He said, yes. And he goes, and he had lockjaw. He said, yes. The next step is you stop breathing and you die. So he was one step away from that happening. Freaking out. It was all by himself. Remember, he was away from home, all by himself. The doctor said he had to get him rushed in with some medicine, injected into his system to stop the disease from killing him. He sat alone in the room for about an hour and a half before they actually delivered the medicine to him, because they had to bring him from another hospital to the hospital he was at. It was a small hospital, small town. After that, then they had to ship him to a major city for into ICU to where they can handle the situation for the disease he has. He couldn't believe what the doctor told him. So then that voice went off in his head. He started going to the negative stuff. What was going to happen to his kids, his wife, family? He had five symptoms of the sick before death. The doctor was telling him how he wasn't too sure what was going to happen and how he wasn't going to make it. He had to call his wife and tell her the bad news. Being he was alone away from home and his wife couldn't get to him, she had to wait till he got transported to the hospital closer to home. He heard it in the voice in his head, and he heard her voice. She began to cry, and she was scared. And that voice got louder in his head. At this time, he told himself, I'm not going to die. I'm not going to give up. Waiting for the medicine and the ambulance. Seconds felt like hours, and he was all alone in the room. Just him and that voice. Then the voice, he started to realize he had full control over it. And he told himself he wasn't going to give up, and he wasn't going to die. The biggest part he had to fight was that only 1,000 cases were reported a year, and nobody survived that. So at this point, he knew he either believes in what he heard, or he starts to fight, and he believes that he can stay alive. And he was going to fight this, not for just himself, but for his family. They loaded him up in the ambulance, took him all the way back into town. All kinds of different machines waiting for him to stop breathing, because they were going to have to administer him CPR or cut him open to get him going. When he arrived at the hospital, there was a crew waiting for him. They had to quarantine him They had to strip him down, give him all kinds of medicines, pump it in his system. The only people that were allowed to see him was his wife and his mom and his dad. He was in a coma for 3 days. And they told his wife and family they didn't know what was going to happen, if he was going to come out of it or wake up or possibly die the way he was at. After he woke up after the 4th day, he was in a regular room, not knowing what happened for the past 8 days. The nurses were checking on him every hour, on the hour, and they kept telling him that what he had was so rare that they never even dealt with it before. That they actually had to remember what they studied about it. That was such a rare disease. And they never treated anybody with it. And the doctors that came in to see him, there was a CDC doctor, primary doctor, there was also a respiratory doctor, and they all kept telling him they didn't know what was going to happen. And they were even surprised that he even survived the 4 days he did. When he came out and everything was done, the doctor told him they didn't want to let him go because they wanted to keep him because they still didn't know what was going to happen. 1,000 cases were reported, 0 survivors. He was probably the first one. When they said that, they told him and his wife that they weren't going to let him go and they wanted to keep him. He said, no, I need to go home. I want to see my wife and family, and I'm not going to die. They took 3 days to let him out, so he was in the hospital for a whole week. He didn't get to see his kids. He wasn't around from anybody, but he kept thinking of what had happened if he died when he was away from home. Nobody would have known. Not one clue, any ideas. Family, nobody. After he got released, he decided he knew he had a story to tell. And his story was he was worried about what was he going to do from this point on. Now he had a reality check. The doctor told him before he left and his wife, and face to face, to get his affairs in order because they said what happened in a week, 6 months, 6 years, they had no idea. There's no telling. So he knew the story he had to face. He knew the story he had because he knew that if he didn't have that inner battle before he even had the physical battle, he wasn't going to win. So he believed he was going to make it. There was nothing in his mind that said he didn't have no other opportunity but to make it. He felt like he had so much left to give in his life, and he knew that if he overcame the odds, that he had something to say. He knew God gave him a purpose, and this is all before his 42nd birthday. So when he got out, he got a reminder, and that was a tattoo on his right arm. A skull for the death he faced, a clock to remind him of the time he has left, a dove to represent life, and roses for the love he has to give. So when he wakes up every day, he's thankful that he's alive, and he has no idea when he's going to end. So today's a big day for y'all. And the inner voice is going to be going up. So when you hear it, remember, you control it. You have put in the long hours and you have trained hard, harder than you can imagine. I have pushed you, Duke, Javier, we all have pushed you to get you here. So in your head, you have to remind yourself, when you step in that ring, don't let that voice take control. You have full control of that voice. Because if you can accomplish anything and you put your mind to it, it'll happen. Because if I didn't believe that, I wouldn't be standing here today to tell you the story that I'm telling you now. Okay? So, I want everybody to get your mask. Come on. There's the death, the clock, the love, and the love. On 3, duke it out. 1, 2, 3. Duke it out!